Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in today for this latest edition of the Musician Monday series for the Musician Treatment Foundation. That's our nonprofit that is dedicated to providing free orthopedic care, specifically for the shoulder, elbow, and hand, for under and uninsured musicians in an effort to keep the music playing. That effort has been ever more important during this ongoing COVID pandemic. I'm Dr. Alton Barron. I'm an orthopedic surgeon and the founder of the MTF, the Musician Treatment Foundation. We're fortunate today to have with us Kimmy, DJ Kimmy, one of our friends of MTF, yes, who I know quite well, and who has agreed to come on the stage with us and discuss some of what she's been through, not just through COVID, but through a hand injury, a potentially devastating hand injury, and we'll go into details about that. Before we do, I'd like to point out that we are wearing masks, and we're wearing masks for two reasons. One, Kimmy, you have not yet been vaccinated because of some health issues, and it's better for you at this time to not do so.
Correct.
And in my case, I'm fully vaccinated, but as per the CDC recommendations, I'm still trying to protect others around me who may or may not be vaccinated by wearing the mask to prevent aerosolization and passage of COVID, and it's now increasing number of variants. So it's still very real. We have the numbers that we have now as of this taping are that about 130 million people have had at least one dose of the vaccine. About 90 million adults have been vaccinated with the full typical two-dose regimen. And that's critically important. We have over 200 million adults in the U.S., so we're making good progress, but it's
yes,
not over till it's over, and that's going to be a long time to come. The problem, of course, for the musicians and the music industry has been a lack of live events, and which is the cornerstone of your and all musicians' touring capabilities and primary source of income.
Yes.
So we'll go into that a little more. So welcome, thank you. And it's so nice to have you. So nice to see you again. And I'm sorry I can't see your whole face, but
Thanks
it's
for
still
having
fine.
Me.
She has a very sweet smile, so just trust me on that. Yeah. Okay, so tell us how you got started and what you do.
Yes, so I'm a professional DJ. I started in 1998. I was 18 years old. I'm 43 now, so I've been doing it many, many years. Yeah. And I just perform. I've done Austin City Limits 3 years in a row. I've done many beautiful weddings and many corporate events, and just loving being out there and performing for keeping people happy and just having a good time.
Yeah, it's so critical. Of course, I would want you playing mainly 70s and 80s rock and roll, but I'm sure that's in your repertoire. So, Kimmy, you do obviously these events. What is the typical length of time for an event?
4 to 6 hours.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, that's a heavy use. And do you have an assistant, or are you solo?
I did have an assistant when my hand was injured and recovering. Just recently started doing events alone, so I've done the last 2 events alone.
Great.
And able to do it by myself now.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay, so and you need both your hands. You're right-handed.
Yes.
This was your left hand that was badly injured, but you need both hands. Give us a little bit of a feel. I think we've all seen DJs at work, but tell us how it feels, how fast, and what you're actually doing.
Yeah,
with
so
each
it's
hand.
very hands-on. You're constantly tuning, treble, bass, getting prepared for the next song. Just a lot of hand work, as well as before and after setting up and breaking down. You need your hands to lift. Speakers are about 50 pounds or more, and it's constant 100% using your hands in this industry.
Sure. So very much like a violinist or a guitarist or anyone else, because you need your hands to make it work.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about what happened to your hand before I met you.
Yes, so I had a slip and fall, and I kind of fell on my hand where it split, and it was injured. I got rushed to the emergency room. They popped it back in place, kind of wrapped it, and said, "You should be fine in, a week or two." Well, little did I know it was broken in several places. So I was trying to get help and therapy, and that was kind of an issue because I didn't have medical insurance.
Right,
So,
yes. The classic story that
Yes.
we face all the time with the Musician Treatment Foundation. So you were, I think you told me you originally were sent for therapy or got some therapy.
Yes.
And how much did you have of that?
So I got 6 therapy sessions, and then after that it ended, and that was with the MAP Medical Assistant Program,
I see.
and that was
So
not enough.
what you know now, being a patient, and what I know through a lifetime of doing this, is that for certain injuries, 6 therapy sessions is a drop in the bucket.
Right.
Not financially, though. I think in our area here, the cost of a typical therapy session is around $200 up to $250 a
Yes.
session. That can add up very, very quickly when many people who have severe injuries in the shoulder, elbow, and hand need sometimes 3, even 5 days a week therapy at the outset to kickstart this and to really recover as expeditiously as possible. So you had those sessions. You really couldn't, you had no more coverage. You certainly couldn't afford it. You're not able to work at that time, of course. So, and this was, by the way, this was pre-COVID, correct?
Right.
So you were going strong and getting all your
Yes.
many gigs and living large, and then
Yes.
suddenly it just ended.
Yes.
And so tell us what happened next. You couldn't get any more therapy. You still had a bad hand problem.
Yeah, so I was just reaching out for help. Had to cancel some gigs and performances, so that was another loss of income. And then just basically trying to see if I could get anybody to help me with more therapy, and then trying to get assistance for the gigs that I had to do that were in contract. And it was really, really tough time with that injury.
Right. One of the remarkable things about and now in our 3rd year with the Musician Treatment Foundation, and seeing the patients, the musicians and professionals who are in this this cycle of despair, really, regarding their shoulder, elbow, or hand injury, is often the extraordinary amount of time that has passed between the actual injury and the time that we get to them. And the reason for that is usually financial, is the fact that they can't afford to get that care, and they can't afford to get to a specialist who can treat them effectively and get them back to their profession and back to making music. So in Kimmy's case, you had been, this was a long haul for you. What was the time frame between your injury and that early, you get 6 therapy sessions early after the injury, and when you actually got to me?
I'd say about a year. It was a long process, and I didn't give up, but after that first therapy sessions, it still wasn't enough. It was so painful, and I wasn't able to go back to work.
And then at what point did you get to me?
I was reaching out on social media, and I found HAM.
But you got to HAM, you were asking around anywhere and everywhere, and someone said, hey, check with HAM?
Yeah, I was on social media. I was doing YouTube, Snapchats. I was just somebody, I was literally getting hung up on because I didn't have insurance.
Yeah.
And I was begging. I was like in tears. I really need help.
Sure.
I really need to work.
Yeah.
So luckily HAM referred me to you.
Yes.
So thankful for you guys.
Yeah, it's a team effort. So the HAM is the Health Alliance for Austin Musicians. It's an amazing nonprofit that has been assisting, I think, almost 20 years, assisting the professional musicians in Austin and surrounding areas. And they do amazing work. Renee Collins is the executive director and a friend of mine. And so, yes, we get a lot of referrals from them to try to help forward their cause and and do our part.
Yes.
Okay, so after you finally made contact with Ham and were referred to me, what were your expectations? Tell me about that.
I honestly didn't know what to expect. I didn't even know I would need surgery. I didn't realize my hand was that stiff and that bad. But I was very excited, and I trusted you, and I couldn't have been happier with the results when I got done with the surgery. I mean, it was amazing that I could use my hands again.
And at that time, kind of show us, I remember vividly, but show me about how much motion you had in your fingers in terms of being able to make a fist.
Probably about that much.
Yeah, it was basically a claw.
Yeah, it was a claw.
Yeah, it reminded you of one of the old James Bond movies or something. Right, and so you really just didn't have any active movement at that time, and that was months after this injury. So all of this time being fallow, not being able to make money and so forth. So we saw that it was complicated. We did a little surgery, and we got these fingers to where they could move, but that was just the beginning of the process. The hardest part was at that point, getting enough and the right kind and quality of therapy to really bring you to a place that would allow you to function again and work again and be creative again and so forth. So the splint that you wore, you can see from the picture that we're projecting, which is pretty cool, because in addition to the therapy, you can only get so many therapy sessions. You have to do a lot of the work on your own.
Yes.
And you were wearing this splint that has rubber bands on it. It's called a dynamic splint. And you wore that and other versions at night and during the day. Tell us a little bit about that arduous process.
So you just keep it on, and each time you can tighten it more and more so you can get more of a fist. And it's painful, but you just keep working at it, and it really helps you a lot. And I slept in it, and I did sessions, and I did the putty, and there's different types of putty. Some are more hard and firm, and just kept working at it.
And I'll use that to say that my general principle for treating patients, but especially musicians and in the world that you're in, I don't really like to have any splinting going on more than about 3 weeks. The splint immobilization. A dynamic splint is different.
Yes.
But a static splint that holds your wrist or elbow, fingers in a fixed position, I try not to have more than 3 weeks, because deconditioning occurs, and it becomes a chasing your tail concept in terms of how rapidly we can get back. So all of our treatment is geared toward rapid mobilization. We were able to start moving you almost immediately after the surgery, which is critical in your case, because you were so stiff and so almost like concrete, your tissues. So that's an important consideration, and for anyone listening about that. So I'd like to then shout out, because someone who helped you tremendously was Christy Still. She's a hand therapist who works closely with the Musician Treatment Foundation, and they're part of Endeavor PT here in Austin, and absolutely wonderful people. And I would like to, part of the shout out is, besides providing excellent care, they actually also give us a break on their charges, so that our donors' money doesn't all have to go just to therapy and can be spread out to more musicians. So that's great. And so you had, how many sessions would you say you had of therapy?
I was going 2 or 3 times a week. I think I had almost 30 sessions.
Yeah.
And it was helping a whole lot. I was seeing a lot of improvement.
Yes. And did that process, at that point, once you saw me, did that cost you much, or was that mostly covered?
It did not cost me anything except getting to your office and getting back home. It was completely taken care of. From what I remember, everything was taken care of.
Good.
And I didn't even know to expect that, to be honest with you. I didn't know that it was going to be completely covered. So I was very blessed, and I never gave up, and I'm so glad that you guys were able to help me.
Yeah, good. So you still had some lingering fears when you saw me, that you were still going to have to pay for surgery and so forth.
Or a bill was going to come later, and I was just gonna have to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah.
But I never got that bill, so.
What was it like for you, first of all, just the COVID experience? Psychologically speaking, obviously I know it was financially devastating, but psychologically speaking, what was the impact of COVID, both negatively, and were there any positives?
So I panicked and I started to just find any kind of regular job I could find, anything I could help neighbors with, because there was no income.
Yeah.
And the unemployment hadn't kicked in yet. We didn't know what was going on with that as a gig worker. Now, if you had a job, that was easier. But for gig workers, it was a little different. And so I just did what I could. I started reselling some of my stuff at home. I started going to garage sales, anything to keep money in. And then the positives were I had a lot of time to work on my health. So I lost 17 pounds.
Good for you.
I just didn't sit around.
Yeah.
And I was out in the community just helping my neighbors, mowing yards, just using that in a positive way.
Fantastic. That's nice to hear, and that's reassuring. Yeah, I think that your story is unfortunately quite common, and I will say that I think this data is about 2 years old, but the average income for a professional in music in Austin area, $16,000 a year is the annual average income. That, if we put that in perspective of what it takes to get orthopedic care, surgery, anesthesia, the surgeon's fee, something like yours easily could cost $20,000 or more. And that doesn't include the therapy as well. So you put that in the perspective of what the average income is, annual income is, and then you think about that, that's a lose-lose proposition.
Yes.
You don't really have any wiggle room there. You simply can't get it. And so it's really great that you didn't just wither away. You, in fact, became more physically fit and better health, but also helping your neighbors and doing those kind of things that are not part of your profession, but they're part of your humanity. And that's what we all needed. There are so many great stories about that, and it's nice to hear that you were part of that too. Now, I haven't seen you in a while. It was we have a saying that it's hard to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. Couldn't bring your hand completely to normal, but show us now that you can function. Show us the kind of fist you can make. So you can make a pretty good fist with a very significant injury.
Yes.
And aside from occasionally dropping a spatula or something while cooking, you were able to do your work and your performances and so forth. And of course that you haven't been able to do for quite some time, but now you told me recently off camera that you're starting to get gigs again, and as the economy and the world opens back up. Tell us a little bit.
So I've been able to do 4 events now. Before that, everything got canceled, just left and right.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited. I've gotten to do the Quiet event, the Lost Creek Country Club, and I have some weddings coming up. So I'm back, and it's picking up.
Yeah, because people can actually have weddings
again.
Yeah. So how did it feel to get that first gig and to get back to work after such a long and arduous journey?
It was amazing, and it makes you just think to never give up in life, to never give up hope, because if you do give up, that's where you're going to fail. So I never gave up, and I was able to get back to work because of you guys helping so much.
Fantastic.
So it was amazing.
It takes a lot of, my editorialization is, it takes a lot of inner strength to get through these things, and I commend you for that effort. It took what I do is a bit part of that. It's much more in these kind of injuries what you do. thank you so much for being with us. It's been a real pleasure, and it's so great to see you back in action. It's so great from a societal level that we're coming out of this pandemic slowly but surely, that we've made good progress of late, and you will eventually get vaccinated and be even safer, but you're taking all the necessary precautions, and you're bringing music into very important events in people's lives.
Yes.
And so thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you for getting me back to work.
Yes, and thank you all for watching this latest edition, and we look forward to future Musician Mondays and more interesting stories about the trials and tribulations and successes of our professional musicians that we hold so near and dear to our hearts and keep us all mentally and psychologically healthier and better because of the universal wonderful appeal and buoyancy of music. Thank you.